going inside the issues of our community. This is Local 12 Newsmakers.
Hail victory! Hail victory!
They wanted attention. They got a lot of attention. They want a lot of counter-protesters, and they got that. They got exactly what they wanted. It's unfortunate.
What happened in Toledo a year ago, about a year and a half ago, is the backdrop to the announcement by the American National Socialist Workers Party, a neo-Nazi group, that it intends to march through the Over the Rhine on April the 20th. Good morning and welcome to Local 12 Newsmakers. American democracy makes the fundamental promise that government will protect the basic rights of minorities, even a minuscule minority, who themselves demonstrate no concern for the equal rights of others. The American National Socialist Workers Party intends to march through the center of Over the Rhine on this coming Friday. They say it is to demand an end to black crime. If you have any doubts about whether this is a variant of the popular call to stop black-on-black crime, don't be fooled. The solution to the crime the group calls for is to, and I quote, to immediately deport America's Negro population back to Africa. The march poses legal challenges involved with the conflicting values of protecting free speech and protecting peace and safety. It also involves public policy questions of how to protect both citizens and the marchers, as well as minimize the long-term negative impact on human relations in a community in which tensions around race and class run close to the surface. And there are also concerns of those who remember the catastrophic implications during the 20th century when good people failed to confront evil. On Wednesday, in response to the request of this neo-Nazi group, Council adopted a new policy designed to more closely scrutinize requests for parade permits. The motion instructs the city administration to give Council a heads up when a controversial incident might be developing, to pass on additional costs for police and other services to the permit applicant, and to limit adverse secondary effects associated with the incident, indecent expression that may be protected by the First Amendment. To discuss these perspectives, I am joined by Laketa, a member of the Cincinnati City Council who led the effort to adopt the new legislation regarding the issuance of parade permits. Joe Tomain is an attorney specializing in First Amendment, media, and advertising law at Frost Brown Todd. And Cheryl Meadows is the director of the Cincinnati Human Relations Commission. Welcome to everybody to Newsmakers. Joe, Council's adopted in this motion, and I read from it, quote, attempts to prescribe categories of expression that are not protected in the First Amendment, such as obscenity, defamation, fighting words, and other threatening, intimidating expression, and clear and present danger expression. Now, what do the court precedents tell us about the ability of a government to limit free speech around those sorts of issues?
Well, Dan, thank you for having me here. Two introductory points I'd like to make is first, I couldn't disagree more with this group and their beliefs. The second point is I'd like to focus on not the first provision that you read, but the one about passing on additional security costs to the group.
And we will talk about that.
Okay. Well, as far as your first issue about the categories of speech you mentioned, obscenity, defamation, fighting words, clear and present danger, those are all unconstitutional types of speech. However, those are different from hate speech, which is protected by the First Amendment.
So what makes something hate speech and protected versus fighting words, let's say? What's the difference between hate speech and fighting words?
Fighting words is very narrowly tailored, okay? It's a very small definition, and that doesn't get us very far for trying to eliminate the type of speech that we're talking about that's coming up later this week. The clear and present danger one is an even more poignant example, which also came out of a U.S. Supreme Court case called Brandenburg versus Ohio out of Cincinnati as well. And in that case, the Ku Klux Klan had a speech, and it had made very horrible statements, racial statements against African Americans, and that speech was protected. As horrible as that speech was, it was protected because it was not a clear and present danger to society, because that speech, what the court said, is that to constitute clear and present danger, that the speech must be directed to incite imminent lawless action and must be likely to create such lawless action. If you look at that Brandenburg case, and you look at the speech that's going on here, they're very similar, and it was very unlikely that the speech that the folks would like to do on Friday would be considered unconstitutional.
Okay, so given all of that, and I'm sure you heard all that, and council members heard all of that kind of discussion, the legal discussion, do you think that what you passed this week will hold up in court? Are there models in other cities that you think will indicate that this holds up in court, or are we facing a situation where they can go to court?
They may. The thing is, no one knows what they're going to say. I mean, we can sit there and say, well, this is what they said in this place. You know, no one can predict the future. And my thing is, if it does happen, then yes, we do need to move forward. So until we actually hear what they're going to say, you know, it's kind of hard to say if it's going to hold up in court or not. But I will say that it's important. People have already said, well, why just ignore them? We need to move forward. We're going to lose in court. And those are the same type of things that was said when segregation was legal, when they went to court. Well, it doesn't matter, it's illegal, you're never going to win. Well, I would tell you that obviously I'm sitting here with you, and so it tells you that they did win. So I would continue to push forward and not allow this type of speech to be.
Are you worried, though, given the way this is written, that at some, because this isn't the legislation, the ordinance is not about just this situation.
Correct.
It's about setting policy for the future.
Yes.
Do you have concern, though, that you're setting up issues or parameters that may cause problems for future civil rights movements or future anti-war movements or future environmental groups that want to demonstrate about something? Are we setting policy here that may be so restrictive that it shuts off things that we might agree with? And Joe made it clear he doesn't agree with this group. I don't think anybody here does. But it can't just be because we don't like this group.
No, I don't think we're setting up anything that's going to be restrictive on another organization. I think, again, it's our duty to protect the citizens of Cincinnati, and I think this is exactly the steps that we need to take in the right direction.
Joe, there's a question in this ordinance, in my mind, that as a non-lawyer, though, it sort of jumps off the page at me. It gives the city manager the option of, we're going to pass on the fees. And then the city manager has the option, on the one hand, of insisting that a group pay half of the fees prior to the event, sort of as a security bond, I guess, or, on the other end, waiving the fees. Is this a potential for prior restraint, and I don't know if I'm using that term correctly? Is there a worry here about the legal and the constitutional value of that?
There absolutely is, and in fact, as far as requiring the additional security costs to go to the group, whoever the group might be, is unconstitutional under Supreme Court precedent. Also, the discretion issue with the city manager to waive the fee is also unconstitutional. As far as the prior restraint issue, and that's something that Councilmember Cole mentioned, we can't predict the future about what they're going to say. And to borrow a phrase from our former Secretary of Defense, Donald Rumsfeld, he said democracy is messy. Well, he used it in a completely different context, but when we're talking about the First Amendment and free speech, democracy is messy. We have to tolerate speech that we disagree with. We can't stop it before it happens. And so there are some serious constitutional precedents as far as passing on the cost to the group and giving the city manager very broad discretion to waive the fee for one group and not another. So based on case law, the motion that is now an ordinance raises serious constitutional questions.
I would have to disagree, because we already do that when we parade, and we just had this long conversation before the opening day parade. We had this conversation before St. Patrick's Day parade. These are the same fees that we pass on when people ask for a permit for a parade, so it's no different. We've been doing it for years, so this is not something that just came out of nowhere. This is a policy that we've always had in place, and when Finley Market pulled a permit, when St. Patrick's Day parade, they pulled a permit, they all pay a fee. They all pay this permitting fee, and the discretion.
Is it always the same fee?
No.
Or is it based on the size, or what's it
It's
based on?
It's based on the size, the number of police, how many public employees we need. So it's based on those things. It's based on your route, how much time it takes in terms of detail the route. So these are things that we already have in place. In terms of the city manager being able to waive, in the ordinance, it's not waiving the fee. What it does is it maybe waive the upfront fee. You still would have to pay the fee, but it would he may decide not to charge a small organization. They have to pay that half up front, but they would still have to pay the fee. So it's not waiving the fee totally.
Joe, does that change anything from your perspective?
It doesn't. The one thing I want to focus on is absolutely that there are time, place, and manner restrictions that are valid, but those time, place, manner restrictions must be content neutral, they must be narrowly tailored to serve an important governmental interest, and there must be alternative means for the communication to exist. Going to the first element, the content neutral element, the Supreme Court has made very clear that when you are trying to anticipate a listener's reaction to an event or to a parade, and you are going to base your decision based on added security costs when you're looking towards what the listeners might react to.
Not the marchers in this case, but the people who might gather there.
Correct. That is an unconstitutional basis on which to base a fee because it's not content neutral, because you're looking at the basis of the message.
I guess, I would disagree, because not only do they do it in Columbus, and it's been done, so this is not something new.
Let's listen. Rich Jaffe here at the station did a telephone interview with Bill White, the head of this organization, who is based in Roanoke, Virginia, by the way. And let's listen to what Bill White has to say, because it directly impacts this.
No, we're going to march on the 20th. There's no law prohibiting us from walking down the street. So we're going to walk down the street, and if they fail to protect us and there's a riot, we'll sue them for allowing a riot to occur. We are going to win tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in damages. And that is the big question city taxpayers should be asking. Is the incompetence of these Negro Council people worth the hundreds of thousands of dollars they're going to contribute to the Nazi Party?
Joe, from a legal perspective, any basis that they could actually win something in court and actually win significant damages?
Absolutely.
They are?
Yes.
Is this something you debated, talked about?
Yeah, I mean, no one's controlling their speech. No one's saying they're not allowed to have free speech, but we do have a right as a city to curtail their permit in terms of where they're going to walk for public safety. I think that's our right as well. We have to protect the citizens of Cincinnati, the taxpayers of city of Cincinnati, and I think that's definitely important. And when he talked about passing on the cost of extra police, again, as I said, depending on the size and the location and what is needed, we do that for any other permits that is being pulled. So this is no different. Why should we treat them any different? Why should we make them the exception?
Well, if this is no different, then why do we need new ordinance?
The difference of the ordinance is the fact that it's upfront fees like they do in Columbus. Half the fee is paid up front as opposed to at the end. Not only that, we passed that same fee on when the Ku Klux Klan came down and they put the square up. We charged them as well, so it was not unconstitutional then.
Okay. This has obviously created a big response in the community, and I want to get Cheryl involved in this, but I want to set this up by here's what two people had to say at City Council on Wednesday before the ordinance was passed. Let's listen to this.
We will not be silenced by this council or by any other governing body, because we are law-abiding groups who will fight for our freedom of speech and will continue to do so until our message is heard by all those with ears to listen.
But be aware that the Martin Luther King Day is over, and these young people out here are like Malcolm X. And by any means necessary, they come through my neighborhood, we're going to kill them.
I want to make sure that was not Bill White. That was misapplied. That was from the former. That was the head of a local Ku Klux Klan group. Cheryl, this whole issue, which has sort of hit everybody this week, has stirred a lot of emotions on a lot of different sides here. Cincinnati Human Relations Commission, which you are the head of, you're responsible for trying to work with this. What are you doing?
We have convened various meetings over the past 3 days. We met last evening until close to 10 o'clock, trying to bring citizens together from various ethnic groups, faith-based organizations and community groups, because they want to talk about this. They're appalled that these individuals want to come to this city. they're concerned about what could happen, and I think the voice that you heard is sort of what we're hearing with the various groups. What's so interesting about the groups that we have met with is there is a group of young people who have the same sentiment as this gentleman here had. And I think it's important that we continue to engage them because we don't want them to get hurt. They want to take it to the street. We're trying to say there is another approach that we want for you to use, and so we've been able to come up with a common statement, number one, that they helped to draft and that we are now putting in petition form, and we have about 50 organizations that have signed it. The young people want to take those petitions and go out in the community and get other people to sign it to let them know that we're against violence. We have problems in our city, but we want to work through the various problems. Secondly, we are going to have, for this march, we will have our community monitors and street workers out there to make sure that we can reduce the incidence of violence and to keep some calmness out in the community. Thirdly, we're going to meet on Monday at 4 o'clock because there are many in the community that do not want to turn their head. They're saying, no, we want to make a further statement. We may want to have an event, and so we're going to find out what kind of event that they want to have. Now, they're not being encouraged necessarily for the event, but they want to do something else.
And we're going to run out of time here, is the real issue here that you're hoping to keep observers, people away from this, let these guys come in, do the walk?
Yes.
And because the real problem in Toledo didn't occur when, in that case, this not neo-Nazi group was there. It occurred afterwards.
And that's what we're concerned about, and so we're trying to tell people to do that. But some don't want to do that, but that's going to still be the message that we have. But at the same time, we need to keep all segments of our community engaged and to allow them to communicate. And then even after this is over, because some of them have talked about broader issues, to still have a forum. And I think the Human Relations Commission is wanting to keep that going. I'm being told I'm out of time, but I'm going to go a little bit longer. What's your understanding, Laketa? The parade permit that was issued has been pulled. They're saying they're going to come anyway. What do you expect to actually have happen?
Well, I'd hope, as I said on the floor of council, that our citizens do not participate by going to the demonstration. I'd hope that we decide to go somewhere else. I'd hope we take a page out of Orlando and not Toledo. In Orlando, they had a much peaceful walk. They allowed them to walk. They removed all the trash cans and anything that can be thrown, and actually had them somewhere else, had the citizens in another place. And then when they did, at the end of the march, they made sure that they were separated, and they had helicopters that were going, so whatever was being screamed from either side, you couldn't be heard.
Okay, thank you very much. Obviously, this next week is going to be a bit tense, and I suspect from what Joe is saying, and I'm not surprised by this, we'll have to find out where this new ordinance leads us, and we'll probably end up in court. So, thank you very much. Stay tuned. After the break, an effort to gain efficiency and effectiveness in social service delivery. Welcome back. One of the biggest challenges in the social service field is to find ways to deliver services more efficiently and effectively. Over the years, the Sisters of Mercy, whose mother house is in Walnut Hills, have created a variety of social services to address the needs of the people of Walnut Hills, East Walnut Hills, and those surrounding communities. This week, 3 of those ministries, Health Connections Associates, Mercy Connections, and Sisters of Mercy Home Program, have been merged into a single entity, which will be known as Mercy Neighborhood Ministries. I am joined now by the leadership of the newly merged organization. Suzanne Kathman is the Executive Director of Mercy Neighborhood Ministries. Before the merger, Ms. Kathman served as the Executive Director of Healing Connections Associates. And Sister Sally Sherman, a Sister of Mercy and the Assistant Executive Director of the new Mercy Neighborhood Ministries. Previously, Sister Sherman served as the Executive Director of Mercy Connections. Welcome to Newsmakers. I hope I got all those mercies and connections. A lot of mercies, a lot of connections, I don't know. First off, Suzanne, what's the range of services that are provided to these neighborhoods, these sort of inner close East Side neighborhoods that both the old and the new organizations?
Well, actually, it's a full range of services from children, because we partner with St. Francis de Sales Grade School and do a health promotion program there, through seniors, senior members of our community with home health care and the programs that the home program has provided for 30 years.
And Sister Sally, how many people work for this organization? And maybe you're still in a shakeout stage, I don't really know. But we're talking not just about sort of grassroots and volunteers, although there are volunteers. We're talking about a professional organization here. So, so how many professionals are working for this organization, or how many employees, however you want to put it?
I believe the number is somewhere between 35 and 40.
So this is sizable.
Yes. Full and part, some are part-time, about half and half that way.
And so we're talking from youth, children to seniors, to the elderly, but what kind of services would actually be out there? So I heard home health care. Is it all around this health thing? What's the home? I wondered if that was something here.
Well, in terms of the health care, much of that does take place in the homes.
Okay.
Many of the services that emanate or come forth from Mercy Connections would be right there. We have, for example, we have 3 computer-based education programs. Computer-based job training, computer literacy, and computer-based GED. There are other programs that, as Sue mentioned, working with youth that go out into the schools. We have a community wellness program that works in the schools. So it really is a whole spectrum, and our employees are involved in those, of course, at different levels.
And Suzanne, how many people in a typical year would you expect to serve now that these are all merged together and you're going to count them? Are we talking hundreds? Are we talking thousands?
We're over 1,000, definitely over 1,000. And we have individuals who come in and maybe need something, assistance once or twice because they're in a crisis situation. And then, for example, with the home program and Healing Connections Associates, we're caring for elderly seniors every week ongoing throughout the year. So that's a smaller group of individuals, but it's ongoing.
And is what drove this merger process, was it an effort at efficiency, at sort of cutting upper level administration and making sure more money could go to those direct services?
That was half of it, definitely. We were working closely together to begin with. We're located in Walnut Hills. We share that Mercy spirit. So it was a natural synergy, and we definitely wanted to be more efficient, which we already have become, but also to build our capacity. We believe that together we are stronger and we can provide more services and respond to the unmet needs in the community as we continue to evaluate that.
Sister, the spirit, the Mercy spirit, and these are all the other 3, but now the new one is a sponsored organization. Yes. What's that mean, that this is sponsored by the Mercy congregation, which is, for those people who may not know, a congregation of religious women, been here in Cincinnati for a long, long time. But what does that practically mean in a social service environment?
What it practically means, I believe, is the Sisters of Mercy. First of all, it comes through from the spirit of the Sisters of Mercy and the founders, Kathman and McCauley, who had a great love for disadvantaged people in all different levels. But also, they have ultimately responsibility for us, that in a sense we're accountable, and they offer support to us. They want to see that we will succeed in carrying out this mission. They offer their support, and we're accountable for that.
Suzanne, what is going to be the biggest challenge? We've talked about all the things you do. What's the biggest challenge that you're facing as this new organization?
Well, from a very practical standpoint, just bringing all the finances together. None of us really find joy in that, and that's just been a lot of work. I think continuing to build a new culture and helping all of us to begin to see ourselves as Mercy Neighborhood Ministries instead of the 3 separate organizations. We've made a lot of progress on that already, but you know, each organization develops its own culture.
Right.
And so really being able to let that go and become the new, that's a process, and that's a journey that we're on. Even
organizations that were so closely related
Absolutely.
still have.
Yes.
And I want to make sure, I'm just about out of time, where are you, and so people could get in touch with you?
We're located in East Walnut Hills at DeSales Corner, which is a very well-known corner,
right.
On the property of St. Francis de Sales Church. So we're at DeSales Center,
okay.
building behind the
Hard
store.
to miss it. Big
Hard
spire there, Big Joe up
yes,
there.
That's right, Big Joe, that's right.
Okay. Thank you for being here.
Thank
Good
you.
luck with
Thank
your
you
new
very
effort,
much,
and
Dan.
thank you for all the
Thanks for
services
having
you've
us.
provided in the past, so to those neighborhoods. Thank you for making Newsmakers a part of your Sunday morning. Next week, Christopher Smitherman, the newly elected president of the NAACP, and a look at what became the first grassroots mass philanthropy in the United States. Here's a peek.
Here you see pictures of happy, healthy children anywhere USA. We must face the fact that any one of these could be the next victim of infantile paralysis.
You can lick infantile paralysis with the March of Dimes.
Send your dimes to President Roosevelt at the White House.